Welcome back for another installment of Fellowship with the Rink. Episode 44 is brought to you by our incredible local friends in Waggle Golf, 9 Mile Brewing, and the officially unofficial craft beer of the Minnesota Wild, Barrel Theory Beer Company. With me, as always, is Joe Smith of The Athletic, bringing you all the insider info on your Minnesota Wild and Gopher hockey. And Joe, we're on the eve. You're back to work. I gotta imagine it feels awesome and horrible all at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, it's exciting to get back just because I love what I do. I really enjoy my job, and being away from games and the team this long has been a first for me this long. But I also wasn't like I was crazy and missing it the last few months. Just having that chance to be at home and be with my son and kind of learn how to be a dad and all that stuff. So there were times, yeah, certainly it'd been cool. Oh yeah, I'll be at a game or traveling and a cool road trip or whatever. But it is mixed emotions going back. But practice on Tuesday, we had a practice Tuesday, games Wednesday, Friday. So I have to get I got the rust off. I got a late game Wednesday night for my first game back, 8:30 start, national game against the Florida Panthers. So I will be up way past bedtime, or my usual bedtime, that game. So yeah, it's gonna be good to be back. I miss writing stories. I miss that part. But I know once you make that transition back to work from the leave, you don't go back to it. So I'm gonna miss those other times too.
For sure. And I just realized this now, but in perfect Fellowship of the Rink fashion, nerddom talk, isn't that their full out Star Wars night, that Wednesday game?
It might be.
They keep on throwing the promo on TV with a Faber Darth Vader jersey or something. And I don't know if that's something that they're giving out to people, but that's over the top. That's way cooler than any of the things they've given out at the door.
Well, isn't it the 23rd anniversary of the Fellowship of the Ring coming out, the movie?
And aren't they bringing it back to the big screen too or something?
That'd be great. I know.
Ask. That's your first question. Is you go up to Lauco stand and be like, "Yo, are they bringing Lord of the Rings back to the big screen? What's the deal?"
I know there was one they played. They played it near around my wife's due date in June at a theater. They played a Lord of the Rings movie, and so we thought that would induce labor. It did not, but it was a shot, and it was 3 hours of us not worrying about or thinking about baby coming. So that was a welcome distraction in theaters. So we'd see it again, and we have our Lord of the Weekend eventually coming here on a cold weekend near you. We watch all of the movies back to back to back, some drinks and snacks, and it'll be a bunch of nap times for Connor, but he'll be down hanging out, probably listening. So
yeah, right. That's gonna have to be something where you watch it over 5 naps.
Yeah, just let it roll.
There you go. Well, I guess we can start here with a little Gopher talk, and I guess it's gonna blend a little bit between Gopher and Wild. The prized boy, Charlie Stramel, was in the house, Mariucci, and there were enough Wild brass there. The one thing, and I don't know if we saw something bogus, but Spoke Z, our prospect guy, was in state and went out to the press box for both Michigan State games to watch Charlie, and actually gave an in-depth review of what he saw. So everyone should check out this week's episode of Judd's Buds. But we looked it up because we saw him when we were just doing a lap around Mariucci down below because he'd never been there before. And we saw Derek Stepan there, and he was at both games to watch and scout Stramel. But he pulled it up online, and it says that he's 5'10", I think, was what he was listed at. And it there's no way. The guy's got to be at least 6'3".
He's
a big boy.
He's not, doesn't seem I'm 6 foot. And I don't think he's shorter than me.
We pulled something bogus up, I guess. I don't know, but we were baffled when we saw 5'10".
But he's certainly the guy that would be watching Charlie and some other prospects, and obviously Jimmy Clark too, with the Gophers. If Bombardier isn't there and Guerin and the like, but yeah, clearly it's a big weekend for Stramel coming back, and we had him on the pod last week, and just his kind of resurgent season and the trust from Adam Nightingale, the coach of Michigan State, and I thought he had the overtime winner on his stick the other night. That would have been quite a storybook finish there, but clearly he's having a season. He's back to his identity, and it looks like he's playing the way he should be playing, and maybe Wild fans will give him a little bit of a break for a second.
It's crazy, actually. On the episode we already dropped, first comment within the first 20 minutes. Are the Wild coercing you guys to speak so highly of Charlie to try and convince us that it was worth a first round pick? I'm like, if you can't get on board now, I guess you're never going to. So I'm not going to try and convince you otherwise. It is so interesting though that if you only watch the Friday game, maybe you don't have as positive of an outlook on Stramel, because he actually he was fine, but he was definitely chasing most of the Friday game. You could tell he was going uphill more than downhill, where Saturday night, he was a different player entirely. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone's ever going to try and convince you that he's got the quick twitch, agility to get going right away. But as soon as he gets moving, he can truck, he can move, and he was killing guys. The hit that he had on Leo Gruba was gruesome. It was also completely clean, but they called a penalty on it initially and actually got challenged to see if it was a major penalty to potentially eject him. And they ended up calling the whole penalty back, which I had never seen in a college game before. But we looked at each other up there and we're like, that wasn't a penalty, was it? He just killed him.
Yeah,
that's all there was. But he was playing way more confident. He was reading the game more than trying to chase it on Saturday night, and got rewarded with the game-winning goal. It wasn't in overtime, so not the same fairy tale story, but great wrap up in general for him. And again, hopefully Wild fans gave that a watch and have some idea of okay, I get why we took this guy. The big misconception that everybody has though is first round pick center, that needs to be a 1C. That's just not how it works when you're drafting in the 20s. Stramel wouldn't tell you, neither of us would tell you. He didn't get drafted to be our 1C. Mm-hmm. But if everything goes right and we continue on this development path that we're now finally seeing after a couple of years of being in a really tough situation, after probably going to college a year too early, he's finally in a comfortable spot and we're seeing the development. This is a guy that can absolutely shape into an incredible 3C is kind of where, I think the Wild are hoping he gets.
And I think that's an ideal setup, right? And if he goes beyond that, then awesome. If he's a 2C or whatever, but yeah, I think there's that thought of first round 1C or first round needs to play right away or whatever. And anytime you get drafted and there's a Gabe Perreault and the numbers fly off the pad, there's always going to be those, times in the draft where you compare to somebody right around you in that time. And the Wild will be the first to tell you that they drafted a lot more in need in that draft up the middle. And you need 4 centers, right? And I think that you look at the team that the Wild have now, clearly they have guys that are playing I don't know if Freddie Goudreau's an ideal 4th line center, but then, there's
this year he's playing a lot more like Freddie 1C. He's had quite the resurgent year, but yeah, it's hard to figure out where it's all going to shuffle.
So, give us some time, and he very well that he still has to prove himself to the point where the Wild can sign him to a deal, right? So there's still some way he needs to kind of improve, but if you're a Wild fan or following this team, considering where they were last year with him to now, it has to be an encouraging step, right? If he say plateaued or it went worse, then all of a sudden you're like, okay, this guy's going to not get signed at all, and you're thinking about a first round pick who doesn't get even a contract. So they're going to be patient with him and potentially another year in Michigan State. So, no, not expecting him to be a NHL or in the next year or so, but have more seasoning there and see where he lands, even if it is in a 3C range.
For sure. And quick Gopher notes from the weekend. I mean, if you told me with the level of depleted roster they had that they were going to put up the fight that they did, get a tie, technically, for Big Ten standings, you give a nudge over for the shootout win, which Jupiter was telling us at the game, 23 consecutive shootouts without scoring a single goal for the Gophers. That is that's not a record you want to have, but apparently, thank God, there's no shootout when you get into the postseason. It is tough, though, when you go in and you have 10 forwards and you're pulling up a defenseman on top of that to round out your forward group, and you lose one to an ejection. You have another one get hurt in the game. Bob said it in his post-game presser, like, they need rest. They need some recovery. And, come January, when they get a couple of their, important players back, you're going to see this team round out into form. The guy that stands out to me, though, Joe, and we're going to be featuring him here in the upcoming weeks for the World Junior interview that we did with a couple of the Gopher players that were camp invitees. Every weekend, Brodie Ziemer is adding one more thing to his bag, and he's just looking that much better. And I, hand up, like, I definitely expected him to, like, have some level of impact this year. He's already exceeded where I expected him to get in his freshman year, and it's pretty awesome to watch.
And you look at that, and like a lot of freshmen be able to have some big years for the Gophers in recent years. Like you look at that, guys been able to step in, have to wait their turn. If they can play, they can play. Not just the Logan Coolies or whatever of the world, but give him some credit. Like a guy who's been a captain before, these guys who's played in big games, and I think that. Having those kind of players gives a different dynamic to this team to add to the veteran players that they already have, and guys that have been there and done that. And sometimes you need some of the, not say young and not knowing the pressure of the college hockey, or not knowing the pressure of 20 some years of a national title drought of this, like let them go in and play and help carry them a little bit. So, interesting to have that kind of impact overall on this team from their underclassmen.
For sure. And it's just going to be interesting. Like, you can't have a bigger high than the Michigan and Michigan State series back-to-back at home, but the fans showed up big. Like, the crowd was great. If they can get that for the home games on the back half of the year, they're going to be in great shape, get players back, get healthy. Hard to not think that both of these teams are well positioned to be making a spot in the Frozen Four, but a lot of season left. We'll see what happens with that. A quick word from one of our partners before we kick off some wild talk. Hey, beer lovers, stop in to 9 Mile Brewing to check out their seasonal offerings like Mallet Mike's Rye Porter or Two for His Nibs, a barrel-aged Honeybush Vanilla Red Ale. These delightful brews go well with the hockey and the crazy winter weather on the horizon. And be sure to check out 9 Mile's events page to see what's coming up this month. They have a lot of great themed trivia options. They have different tournaments like cribbage, crokinole, euchre, and a ton of other fun activities that you'll definitely want to be on the watch for. So get out to their Bloomington tap room and see what all the hype's about. All right, Joe, we got the first game of the season from the guy that we were told was going to play a third of the NHL games, Jesper Wallstedt. What did we think there?
Yeah, clearly, he thought going into the year, and a lot of us thought that he'd be playing maybe not 1/3 of the games, but playing a number of games this season. And, it wasn't his fault that the Wild lost that game. He was maybe a little jittery early on, but it was good to see him back, getting his home debut. Minnesota Wild, and I thought it was really interesting and, revealing for like even an athlete like that who hasn't had a lot of service time to be so open, talking to media afterwards about the mental struggles he went through. Not just the expectations of being NHL and then being the AHL, but the struggles. He had some real struggles in Iowa to where he even admitted, like, why would they want to call me up if, this, I can't stop a puck. And like things he's done since he was 7 years old, he was overthinking. And, he brought up talking to sports psychologists and trying to work his way through things. So I thought it was very interesting to me that, A, he opened up about that, B, it brought in some insight into why there was maybe some struggles there where you thought this guy is like, he should be dominating the AHL at this point, right? Or he should be at least, top flight number one there to get. So clearly it took a toll on him, but maybe this is a way for him to get a taste in the AHL and then go back and realize what he has to do to get there. Maybe he's kind of found the light or gotten some help that he needed to get that mental hurdle. But this is all pretty much probably a surprise to a lot of people, considering how he ended last year and what the thought was going into the season of it'd be this guy who'd be the third goalie playing more games, but the struggles kind of surprised a lot of people, I think, to start the season in Iowa.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be real. Half the fan base expected Gustafsson to be traded before the season started, so people are definitely a little off on how all this is going to play out. But hey, young goalie, give him time. And I mean, it's just the nature of the position too, overthinking some of this when he thought he was going to be up with the team. And well, there was a detour. Bigger.
I think he'll be okay. Just like when you have a season like this from Gustafsson, I don't think you're going to move off from him right away. So there's a scenario where next season you have Gustafsson as the number one and Wallstedt is that backup, so if Wallstedt continues to progress and play well, or it's better for him to play in a smaller role. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting second half for him, a really important one to see how he kind of bounces back from it.
For sure. And big blow to the Minnesota Wild with a monster season that Jake Middleton was having. How big of an impact is this injury going to have on the roster?
Well, like he was, playing extremely well this whole season. And, I think there was maybe some eyebrows raised when the contract was signed in the summertime for the extension and a year early. And you could argue both ways on that one, but he still is, one of their top left shot defensemen, and there's not as much depth to that side on the team. And so to lose him both there, and, if you're been around the team or in the room, like I have been previously, he's one of those guys that kind of stirs the drink, or he's really great personality. He's one of the looser guys there, and so missing a guy like that can play a role too, especially when you're going through some difficult times. So that's why I think it's going to hurt him as well. Having Brodin coming back, Declan Chisholm playing really well, stepping in a top four role has been really good for the Wild and helping them stay afloat there. But it's a critical time right now. Like, they've had these injuries. I know Zuccarello Brodin came back. They're kind of leaking a little bit of oil now, like win one, lose one, win one, lose one. And where they were before, they were just not losing two in a row in regulation and maybe not playing their best hockey. So it'd be important for them to get something going here before the holiday break. As much as they've had their points in the standings the beginning part of the year, it's very easy to kind of slide back if you get into a little bit of a rut there. So losing a guy like that, they got Dermott off waivers. They chance to get to play him, but they're not a team that can sustain so many injuries and be able to maintain that kind of level like you saw last year.
For sure. And definitely not a knock or something where I think that they shouldn't have claimed a guy like Dermott. But does it tell you anything about where they see their, blue line prospects at right now, that they really didn't want to pull anyone up and give them a chance with all the injuries that we had?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good point of the prospects that they've had in the blue line, and this would have been a perfect time for Damon Hunt, coincidentally, to step in if they had traded him. Of course, that's the guy, like, didn't have a spot before, and they were deep in the blue line and all this stuff. They traded him, Columbus, and this would be a place where he'd be able to shine. I think Bill Guerin has said that he even thinks that, a guy like Lambos is getting pretty close to that spot of being able to play at that level. So that's what he pointed out, at least, of the prospects that the Wild fans are probably curious about. But for now, to have a guy who has played the NHL games, more experienced, can play a little bit more with some trust there from coaches, can help. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair question to bring up.
Another important question that I think a lot of fans have brought up online: how concerned do we need to be about the record, not holistically, because, again, I don't think any Wild fan could look you dead in the eye and say they expected the Wild to start this well. Still struggling with some of the big dogs they've had challenges with in the past that they might have to get through in the first round in the Western Conference.
I mean, the numbers are there, like I think it's 2-6-1 against, Western Conference playoff teams or some of the top teams. I'd probably, if they're making the playoffs in the top three of the division, they'll be playing one of Winnipeg or, whoever finishes there in the top three. So, I think you've seen a few games where they've been really more competitive and they fit better against them. But still, I think the record speaks for itself, and sometimes there's back-to-backs and whatever. But until you go through it and beat these teams and do it regularity, it'll give you more confidence going into actual playoff series where, teams will be playing better, things will be called tighter. So, again, like you said, nobody's complaining about where the Wild are now, and no one would have thought they would have been at this particular place. But when it comes to getting to where they want to go, they have to go through these teams over a longer series. And I think it would be helpful to find ways, like, Wednesday night they play the Florida Panthers, they've beaten them, they've beaten the Tampa Bay Lightning. But then if Winnipeg is Saturday, and Winnipeg's a team that'll be probably in their playoff cards at this point. So that'd be a bigger win to me than winning Wednesday against Florida.
And with the way the Wild have started, obviously injuries are going to play a big role in this. If Kaprizov and Gustafsson, though, keep on going at the clip they have, and we have a large amount of health coming up at the end of the year, do you get the sense from, like, the moves that have been made, where the front office is at, do they need to win in the first round this year? Or is being competitive in a series, taking it to game 7, like, is that something that'll be sufficient for Leopold and Guerin?
Well, I think, like we wrote, like, earlier in the year, the 5-year plan, quote unquote, that Leopold talked to me and Mike Russo about. There's a lot of confidence in Bill Guerin and what he's doing, and they realized maybe in the beginning when they did the buyouts with Suter and Parise that it wasn't going to be as quick of a turnaround as they might have thought, or they didn't know that the plan then might have taken longer. I know this season has kind of reset expectations because of how well they've started the year, but I don't think if they lose in the first round that there are going to be some wholesale changes on the front office side. Maybe some players that might be decided, some players that go forward, but it is important. Like, I think we've stressed a number of times, with Kirill Kaprizov being able to sign a contract extension starting this summer, to show him that this can be a team that can win and contend and make some noise in the playoffs, knowing the capital's going to go up significantly the next couple of years. So that'd be more thing for me. I don't think there'll be any wholesale changes if they lose game 7 or game 5 or game 6 the first round. Though I think in an ideal world, if you're running this team, you want to find some progress, especially considering all the things they've been building towards. Kaprizov having an NBA caliber year, and Spurgeon being healthy and you have these prospects coming up, but like at some point there's got to be some kind of, results to come from all the things that have been building. But yeah, I don't see this as being wholesale changes if they don't win the first round. It just more so be more of a disappointment considering how they've set the expectations at the start of this year.
For sure. And another factor that, is different from what we've seen in the past. We got a new coach, John Hines, who now that he's had a full off season, came into this year, like things have obviously looked different in a good way. How much credit do you think he deserves for what the team is doing beyond, like we already talked about Gustafsson and Carrell, right? Like what's his role in this?
Well, I mean, the coach gets a lot of the blame when the team doesn't go well. And I think when the team does play well, they should get some credit there. And I think he's done a great job of connecting with players and individual meetings with them since last year, getting to know how they tick and figure out maybe under the hood what the problems had been. And it's hard to come in as a coach midseason or 2 months into a season like last year with Hines did, and you can't really change a lot of things midstream. You had to tweak a little bit of their systems, but this is the first time you got a chance to work with them at a bigger level in training camp, and they're playing or have been playing a more connected style of hockey and really good structure. And I know it's boring to talk about, but for this team to win with $15 million dead cap hit and the injuries they've had to play a more tightly sound game, and it's shown in having better goaltending in front of them as well. And he's known to make really good adjustments. He's not afraid to change lines in games, early in games, whatever, to try to find the right tweak. And you look like a genius when you start winning games, but all of a sudden it could go other side after you get into a slide. But I think he has the right temperament and a really good connection and communication style with players that they dig. And example, Matt Boldy, who took off after he took over in late November last year. So, he'll be judged more as the years to come. But I think this was a good example of a coach getting a full camp in summer and then start the season to work with guys and get them to play there. Just got to fix the penalty kill at some point. This is several coaches now that have dealt with that, so not just him, but
yeah,
it's certainly something that's going to be on the front burner going into the next regular season.
Yeah, if anyone has the answer to fixing the penalty kill, I think there's a lot of money that the Wild front office is ready to shell out to you. Yeah. So please come forward with your ideas and we'll vet them out for you. Get you in touch with the right people. Well, let's not waste any more time, Joe. We got a pretty fun interview here that we teed up for the folks.
Yeah, Zeev Buium, the one of the top prospects for the Wild, part of the national champion, Denver University, who could very well be in the Frozen Four again this year, the way that they're playing. And Zeev is just a fun, colorful personality and unique backstory for a lot of hockey players especially people who grew up in Minnesota, skating at age 2 or 3, or parents played and coached hockey. Like he had a very different background to get into the sport with his parents who immigrated over from Israel, and dad worked at the HVAC company to get him started. So very fun interview with him, and hope you guys enjoy it.
This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it, that makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order. Joining the show today is one of us by way of 2 seasons at Shattuck, followed by Judd and Billy trading up 1 spot to select him 12th overall in the first round of the 2024 NHL Draft. Zeev Buium. Zeev, really appreciate you jumping on here, man.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me.
As you can see, the title of our podcast is Fellowship at the Rink, a little stick tap to Lord of the Rings, one of our fandoms. I wasn't sure if you're a Lord of the Rings fan or if you have a nerd itch or nerddom you have, like a movie series or book series or anything like you do that's kind of off the ice. It's kind of a little different.
I actually just watched all of the Avenger movies last night. So,
Oh.
Yeah, I had a lot of time on my hands. Thought I'd watch the movies.
Sell me on that, because I'm not like big into those ones particularly. Like some of the like individual ones, like Iron Man was okay, Captain America okay, but I'd never like really dove into the Avengers.
Yeah, I hadn't really watched any of them either. Like that wasn't really my thing, but it's great. I mean, I recommend it for sure. It's definitely a good watch.
Who's the Avenger you're most like?
Oh man, I don't know. I love Hulk, but I'm very far from Hulk. So, but Hulk's definitely my favorite.
Or the guy you'd want to be, the superhero you want to be, I guess. It would be the one you'd want.
Probably Thor. Yeah, Thor's got some power, that's for sure.
To be more of a big defenseman, hulking defenseman there. I think Thor can handle the blue line pretty well.
Yeah.
Now, I got to ask you, because I haven't been there myself. How crazy is the Sphere?
Oh my God, it's ridiculous. I didn't really, so obviously like I've never been in it, but except for the draft, but I mean, walking in, it was just ridiculous. Like the whole setup they have there, like the concourse is just, everything's incredible. And then kind of going down the escalator and you're getting introduced by a robot and you're just kind of, you're not sure really what's going on. But yeah, I mean, it was a crazy experience. I was so close to like the stage, I guess, and closer to the screen. So I if I looked up like too high, I'd start to get dizzy. So yeah, I mean, but it was awesome. It was so cool, and it was an awesome experience.
Man, I can't even imagine. I feel like anywhere you sit in there, though, you'd like look up and feel like you're right next to it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Now, you were runner-up for best soundbite from the draft. You went up there for the interview and you said, "I love Lake Minnetonka. I'd rather spend time there than a beach in California." Now, I got to know, like when you got picked, did you sit there and go, okay, how do I endear myself to Wild fans? Or was that just off the cuff?
Off the go. I mean, I think it's kind of funny how it worked out just because obviously spent so much time in Minnesota, spent a lot of summers there too. So I had a good buddy, Gavin Waltz, who played at Czech as well, and me and my brother would go up and stay with him in his house, and it was right on Minnetonka, and it was, I mean, we always say like we'd go back there for any summer. It was awesome and definitely one of the best summers we've ever had.
It's a different world out there, man.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel about Aaron Kiviharju one-up? He might have 10-upped you, to be honest, with his soundbite just telling Billy that he had the fucking steal of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, he's obviously a great kid. I met him at camp, and he's competitive, and that's great. So if anything, just betters all of us, and we're all going to compete with each other, and we all want to play in the NHL one day. So I mean, he's a great kid, and he works hard and believes in himself. So I respect him for that. But yeah, I mean, we're all gonna work hard and have things to prove.
You mentioned the draft, and I think I heard you say something like 85 people, family and friends. Like, who were the distant cousins that came? Who all was part of the group that kind of came to? I know college teammates. I'm sure who all came to the draft for you.
Everyone. I mean, I had a good amount of family come from Israel, and for us, it was because my brother couldn't have a in-person draft because of COVID, so we kind of went all out for me, and very, very grateful for that. I mean, we really couldn't do it without my family and everyone back home in Israel and everything. So that for us was super special for them to come down, especially with what's going on. So it was great for me to see them and be with them in that moment, and also just friends. I mean, some of my best friends, kids I've known for since I was 6 years old. So I just thought that everyone's kind of helped me get to this point, and that they should be a part of it.
There's been very few picks, and I mean, Shirk and Scott can speak to this. He's been here longer than I have. Very few years where Wild fans have been this excited over a first round pick than when you got, you fell to them basically. I was wondering, where was your read on how the draft would look for you, or did you have any sense of where you might fall, and did you have
kind of a sense from just talking to the Wild, your meetings with them. How'd that go in terms of what was your overall read going in, and were you surprised how it went where the Wild got you?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird. I mean, I think for me, all the conversations with the Wild were amazing. I think it almost felt like they kind of loved me the most, and they were definitely a team I really wanted to go to. But just hearing noise, like I didn't know if I'd be there by then. But I mean, I went to bed that night, not sure where I could be, and just hoping that I go to the team that wants me for me. And so I was super happy that I actually ended up there. And I mean, through the whole experience, like, you're not, like, for me personally, I didn't really think like, oh, I didn't go, here, or I didn't go there. I was just kind of like, I just need to go where I need to go. And, hopefully a team picks me up soon. And when I saw them trade up, and we had, obviously conversations throughout before the draft. And I think they were actually going to come out and see me before the draft, and they ended up not. So I knew they had a lot of interest in me. And, so when they traded up, I had a really good feeling that, it was obviously could be me. But yeah, I mean, it was nothing crazy. I just went into the day being grateful. And, for me, just to go in the first round for my family, it was a crazy day. And, something my brothers and I, dreamed about our entire lives. And, not really expecting, that to be our future and our journey. So, just really grateful for them to pick me.
Especially, I'm sure, gratifying for your parents too. They don't have the typical like Minnesota hockey parents background where the dad has coached hockey for his whole life, and all that stuff like that. Just tell us a little more about your folks. And I know your dad, you immigrated over from Israel, and he got his own business, right? And your mom's obviously your carpool queen. Like, give us some love to your parents, and give you a little breakdown of like just how much they played a role in kind of where you are right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're the best. Like, it's seriously, we definitely couldn't have done it without them. I mean, my dad, the hours he works, and I mean, when they first moved over, they didn't know a lick of English. And I think my mom told us a story about how when she got pulled over, she couldn't even talk to the cop about what was going on. And so we found that pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, they both worked jobs, and my dad was trying to build his business from the ground up, and bouncing from house to house, just trying to stay on their feet. And they actually came to the U.S. with, like, I think it was like anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 and one suitcase full with both their clothes in it. So both of them really came from nothing. And to see, my dad's work ethic, my mom's work ethic growing up, and how much they, try to support and provide for us to give us kind of the life that they didn't get to live. And, for us, we've always been grateful for it. And, the older we get, we understand that. And yeah, I mean, we definitely couldn't have done it without them. And my mom, like you said, the carpool queen, I guess. Yeah, she's amazing. I mean, I say it all the time, but like, we really believe our mom's a rock star. Like, there's no one in the world like her. I mean, our house doesn't run without her. Nothing goes well without her. I mean, if she's gone for whatever reason, I remember she went to Israel when we were kids. It was just me, my dad, and my two brothers, and we had to call her for laundry and food and everything. So she's really the rock to our family. And yeah, it's been great to have them in my life and have such great supporting parents.
And what was her reaction when your brothers first asked her about playing hockey? What was her
she said over my dead body. Yeah. Yeah, she didn't she was a professional women's basketball player in Israel, so her big thing was like, you guys can play whatever sport you want, basketball, football, whatever it is. But when we said hockey to her, she was like, what the hell is hockey? So yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're happy for us now, but yeah, in the beginning they were definitely a little bit concerned and confused.
Well, I'm sure you got into the sport because of your brothers too, having brothers played. Is that just something that was kind of natural, where you probably play other sports too, right? You probably played basketball, you probably played football. Like, was that just something that you knew hockey was your thing?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously my cousin, who actually showed us kind of hockey, and Shy, my older brother, would love to go watch him play, and then ended up getting into it after a while of begging my parents. And then my oldest brother got into it, then I got into it. I actually started on rollerblades for the first couple of months just because, I don't know, I guess I didn't really hop on the ice yet, but I loved rollerblading around the rink and just kind of messing around with a stick and roller puck. And yeah, I mean, I ended up like falling in love with it like everybody else does. And for us, it was awesome. We played at one of the most fun rinks you can play at. I mean, it's got a barbecue in the backyard. It's one rink. There's only a couple teams. I mean, they're definitely evolving now and becoming a better program. But when we first started there, it was very, very club and local. And, the only place we really traveled was to San Jose, which was just a few hours up north. So, just kind of where we learned to love it. And, I'm super grateful looking back now that that's kind of how it was. And we didn't have anybody pushing us or forcing us to play hockey or, telling us what to do and how to do it. And it was just to learn to play and love it. And, if we loved it enough and, we got good enough at it, then, hopefully we can move on to the next level. So that's kind of what happened.
Scott and I both have young sons or babies now. They're 6 months to a year. And so we'll look forward to driving them to hockey rinks all over the state at some point. But 112 miles is a long way to carpool for practice and for games. And can you paint a picture for us on what those rides were like with your mom in front and you guys? I don't know what you guys were doing for 2 hours.
Yeah, we had a big Escalade. So it was actually the one with like it's kind of like a little TV screen up top. So sometimes we kind of bring the Xbox in there. We'll throw a movie on or, do like schoolwork. But, I wasn't the biggest fan of schoolwork in the car. So either take a nap or just do whatever, talk to each other. But, the car rides for me being so young, like, I don't know, my brothers can say the same because they're a little bit older, but it just felt normal. Like I didn't realize like how crazy the drives were when I was younger. Like I thought like the 2.5 hour drives in traffic were just like, oh, everybody does it, so I wasn't really, concerned or like, what's really going on. So, for me, it felt normal. I'm sure my brothers, it probably did too, but, even now, like, or when I first started driving, actually, like I'll drive an hour up to see my friends or whatever it is. And they think I'm crazy for driving an hour, but for me, it's like, that's not that much. So, it was crazy car rides, but, like I said, very fortunate that, we had parents to do it and make that sacrifice.
So she brought your dinners. Sorry, she brought your dinners to microwave there too, or like,
So she would do everything. She'd pack our bags. Because she had to pick us up from 2 different schools. So me and Shy were, in elementary school or whatever. My oldest brother was in middle school. So she'd go pick him up from the middle school and then come pick me and Shy up from the elementary school. And then she'd have our bags packed. Everything is in there. Nothing's missing every time. Food in the car, packed, ready to go. And it wasn't like, like Subway or whatever. Like she would cook food for us every day. So it was incredible. Like I said, it felt normal at the time. And the older we got, we understood how crazy it was and how much effort, they both really put in. So it was crazy.
So what do you do for food now at college?
Man, I've started getting into cooking a lot. I'm trying to cook more, but probably a lot of DoorDash. Yeah, I'm not the best cook, so I try to, but definitely a lot of DoorDash. And I just got a car, so I'll try to not cut the DoorDash down and stop being lazy and get in the car and go somewhere to eat.
Who do you look up to playing hockey other than your brothers? Like who are the NHL players you kind of like try to like model your game after? Or who's the guy? Hey, when I get there. If I get there, this is kind of the guy I want to be like.
Yeah, I think for me, Quinn Hughes is probably definitely the guy. I really want to be like. I think when I got to Shattuck, that's kind of started to realize that's the player I kind of want to start to be like. At the end of the day, I want to be me and not focus too much on somebody else's game. And at the end of the day, I want to have my own style of play. But Quinn Hughes is definitely that guy. But growing up, Drew Doughty was my guy. Like I loved watching him and just the way he played and everything, and just being able to kind of see him practice. We would every Saturday morning we'd have practice or a game or whatever when I played on the Junior Kings, and they would practice, morning skate or whatever in the morning. So we'd always be able to see them. And I thought that was just a really unique and cool experience to be able to see him and watch him just practice growing up. So it was really cool.
There is no love lost between Minnesota Wild fans and Drew Doughty. It's something to behold. They like to say that like we're inside his head, and I can say objectively, Drew Doughty is living rent free in 90% of Minnesota Wild fans, and it's hilarious for me.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Shattuck there. How does a Cali boy end up at Shattuck? It's pretty crazy. So my oldest brother, who played also at the Junior Kings,
he was really good. Actually got recruited to Shattuck first. And he, wasn't too sure, whatever. And my parents obviously were like, what the hell, sending our kids away, like Minnesota, like that's insane. Like, we don't even know what this is. So, Shy, my other brother, I mean, he's like the hockey nerd. He knew everything. He knew that Shattuck was the place we needed to be if, we wanted to kind of move on. So he told our parents, like, this is the place we have to go. Like, this is the dream school, whatever. So, they ended up saying yes. So Ben ended up going, and that summer they actually said, bring Shy too. And so Ben and Shy went in together. Ben ended up leaving just a couple months in. Wasn't for him. I mean, we kind of act like he's the guinea pig, kind of just send him in to test the waters for us and tell us how it is. So after that, I mean, I continued to play the Junior Kings. And I knew that was the place I wanted to end up. So when I turned 13 and was old enough to go to Shattuck, I was like, let's do it. So it was definitely the place I wanted to be.
So Ben's the guinea pig. Oh,
go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Well, so Ben's the guinea pig. Shy's the one that establishes it and says, "Yeah, you're coming, Zeev."
Yeah,
is that pretty much all that happened with Denver? Like, did he make you go, or
no? If anything, you probably didn't want me to come, but yeah. No, I mean, when I was getting recruited, I'm a late birthday, so they made that rule where you can't talk to colleges until August 1st. I think we have to be 16 or 15. I don't even remember, but I remember, so I couldn't talk to Denver when everybody else was talking to schools. And so I basically had another year to sit on what I wanted to do. And so, I mean, at first you want to, talk to all the schools and this and that. And the more I matured and kind of realized, what Denver is and the type of place it is. I didn't talk to any other schools. I committed, August 1st, Tavis McMillan called me and he just said, offering you whatever. And I said, I'm in. So I didn't talk to any other schools, committed right away. And very grateful that I did.
You mentioned your brother playing at Shattuck too, and I'm not going to trip on your dad. Your dad did so much for you and excellent HVAC business. But I've heard you told a story once about him is not the biggest astute hockey fan, I guess.
Yeah.
Remember telling the story about, I guess, him watching. Was he watching on his computer or was he watching on TV, like Shattuck game like that? And
I think it was on like a live barn. It's pretty hard to see, I think, on that. But I mean, he just, like, for him, like, it's never about if we score, if we have a good game or a bad game. Like, he just wants us to have fun, and that's his biggest thing. And I think so the 15s were playing and the 16s. So Shy was on the 16s, and the 15s were also playing the same day, and they're at the same time. And I think it was like whatever, and it was just on the live barn thing, and he clicked the wrong one, I guess. And at Shattuck, there's no last names, so you can't like see who it is. But he ended up watching the entire 15s game, and number 8 on that team, because my brother was number 8. Number 8 on the 15s team ended up scoring 2 goals and had player of the game or whatever. And Shy was number 8 on the 16s, and he had a terrible game. And my mom was actually at the game, and my mom's texting him like, Shy's not playing very well, and he's like, what are you watching? Like, are you kidding me? Like, he's playing unbelievable. And so it was just funny because, I mean, it's just for him, like, it's funny because we always mess with him, like, how do you not know who your kid is? Like, you should know, how your kid plays hockey. So, I mean, for us, we always joke about it with them and laugh with them about it. But, I mean, it was definitely a one-of-a-kind story.
Now, going into Denver a little bit more, we have to ask, because he was drafted to the Wild before you. Was there a relationship already there? Were you and Rieger Lorenz tight, or what kind of guy are we looking at here that might be joining you in the jump from college to the Wild?
Yeah, I mean, Rieger's awesome. He's a great kid, great teammate. Obviously a great player, has a great work ethic. Definitely a jokester. Cracks a lot of jokes. So, I mean, I love being around him. Love being here with the team. And when I got drafted to Minnesota, I mean, it's cool for us to be able to share that together and kind of go through these experiences together. So obviously he had nothing but good things to say about Minnesota and their organization. And, before I, met everybody and meeting everybody, it definitely exceeded my expectations, if anything. So, I mean, it's awesome to be able to go through it with them for sure.
I was there covering the Frozen Four last year, and there in the dressing room afterwards when you guys were doing your celebrations and everything like that. Just a surreal scene. And I was curious, what was your favorite behind the scenes moment in winning a national title that you'll remember forever, that you'll tell your kids about when you think about that weekend going through it?
Oh man, it's a hard thing to think about. I mean, it's everything. I mean, just from the feeling you have in that last 30 seconds of just, it just feels like the longest 30 seconds of your life of that third period. I mean, it's like you're just waiting for that clock to hit 0. And I mean, it was the greatest feeling I think I've ever had in my entire life. Just the happiness, the relief. It was awesome. And it was the greatest feeling. I think just being in the locker room with the guys after and kind of sitting down and everyone's, jumping around. But when we kind of settled down, everyone's looking at each other and hugging each other. And, I think for me, the moment I think that sticks out the most was when I was on the ice when we just won and I had the trophy and my brother came up behind me and he hugged me. We kind of held the trophy together. And I think we both just kind of just started crying. And it was just an unbelievable experience, super humbling experience. And, just seeing our parents right there on the glass and being able to hold the trophy together right in front of them. And, I think that's probably what hit me the hardest out of the whole thing. And I mean, after that, it's just crazy celebration. But I mean, getting back to campus too was just incredible. And it was, the entire thing was just better than anything I could ever imagine.
And you had NHL matchups in that Frozen Four. The guys you went up against, like Celebrini's line, like him from Shag 2, right? Things like that. And so is that even more kind of, you don't need any validation for you, what you do, what you're able to do. But that Frozen Four was, cream of the crop of guys you had to defend then too. Yeah.
I mean, obviously Celebrini, Hudson, the Smith line with Perot and Leonard, I know all those guys. So it's fun to play against them for sure. I remember I was laughing at Smith and Perot and Leonard midway through the game just because we're all good buddies. And it's just funny to think that we're all playing each other in national championship game. So, I mean, for us, like we had a great game plan going against all of them. And our team was so bought into doing whatever it took to win. And, we were comfortable in those 2-1 games, 2-0 games or whatever. So, it was just, we know what we needed to do, and everyone executed at a really high level. And, all the egos, every ego was out the door, and, no one was thinking about the points or the goals or who scores or whatever. It was just all about for the team and doing whatever it took to win the game.
You win the championship, which is a goal from everybody who goes to college and plays hockey, especially at Denver. You're a top 10, top 12 pick in the draft. Obviously, you've got teams that are probably like, hey, you're ready to play. What went into the decision to come back another year? And what was the conversation with the Wild and Bill Guerin about that particular process of the back and forth? Or was it easy for you just to be like, hey, I'm coming back one more year?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think when you get drafted, and especially with the year I had last year with the World Juniors and personally how I felt, and also, with the national championship, it's like it was easy to kind of think, oh, maybe I should make the jump. But after everything kind of settled down and talked to my agent, talked to my family, obviously talked to, Billy Guerin, and, we kind of all, made a decision that the best thing for me is to go back to school. And, that was what was more on my mind, kind of more realistic, what I thought was going to happen. And was very, happy and ready to go back to school. I mean, I thought just how my season ended last year and, where my game was at, I thought coming back to school, building on it for another year and, getting bigger, getting stronger, hopefully going to World Juniors again, trying to defend 2 titles in 1 year, I think is a challenge that, you don't get to approach every year. And, I want to take that on. So I think, it was definitely, it wasn't like a thing where it's like, oh, I had to go back. It was like, I want to go back. This is great. And just being at Denver, everyone here is awesome. We have one of the best cultures, if not the best culture, I've ever been a part of. And so it's awesome. And yeah, very happy to be back.
And Wild fans saw Brock Faber end his college career, obviously not the way he wanted to end it, but an extra championship game, and then join the team end of that year, play a game, and then go in the playoffs right away. And then all of a sudden he's Calder Trophy guy. He's there for good. Like, do you envision a scenario where after the season ends that, you know, you could be possibly in a Wild uniform? Is that kind of an idea that's been in your head of like, whatever happens this season, you're going to focus on that, but the next step could be as early as the spring?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, I think for me, it's you know, focusing every day here. I'm 2 feet into Denver right now, and that's how I like to be. I like to be wherever I am. That's where my feet are, and keep my mind focused on, you know, what we need to do here. And right now, we want to win a national championship. So, you know, that's my main focus. I'm not thinking too much about next year or what happens after that. But you know, for sure, I mean, I want to play NHL as soon as I can, and you know, make a difference and help the team, and you know, in whatever way I can. So it's definitely a thing on my mind. But you know, for me, it's kind of pushing that aside and focusing on what I need to do now. And you know, when the time comes, if I did everything right and I played my game and you know, I helped my team here at Denver, I think everything else should take care of itself.
I don't want to pull you too far out of the now mindset, but off-season talk. How's the golf game?
It's getting better, that's for sure. Yeah, it's definitely getting better. It took me a while. I mean, I started pretty late. I started kind of after my 17th year at NCDP, and I was trying to figure out whether or not I was a lefty or a righty. So that was difficult, but definitely getting a lot better. I love it. I try to play as much as I can in the off season, and it's definitely something super fun to do, obviously with the boys, and just kind of going out there and having fun and not taking it too seriously. So I love it. I got a golf range actually just like 2 minutes from my house. So I'll try to hit that as much as I can.
Nice. Final question brought to you as always by our good friends at Waggle Golf. First, make sure you head over to getyourwaggleon.com. Throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order. I need 3 names here, Zeev. 3 guys are going to round out your dream golf foursome, dead or alive, celebrity, athlete. I don't care who it is. Who are the 3?
Oh, man. I'll go Adam Sandler.
Ooh, I love that. Now, is he in character or is he just Adam Sandler?
Just Adam Sandler. Just see what kind of guy he is. I think I go Kobe Bryant just because I think he's just like so cool and to kind of just see his mindset and pick his brain. And let's see one more. When I think about this, I don't want to say someone bad. Oh, man. Maybe like Bobby Orr.
Okay.
Yeah, in there. Yeah.
I respect that. That's a pretty good crew. And I imagine from the way you presented it, you're sitting with Sandler in the cart.
Yeah, definitely sitting with Adam Sandler. That's for sure.
That sounds like a great time. Oh, man.
I like to laugh, so I'd love to hear what that guy has to say.
I can't even imagine at this point, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is there Happy Gilmore 2 coming out? Isn't there Happy Gilmore 2?
There is. Yeah, there is a Happy Gilmore 2 coming out.
That's going to be electric. I'm so excited for it. Well, we really appreciate the time here, Zeev. We might have to, loosely commit you here that if you guys make it to St. Louis, we might have to get you back on here for a quick preview beforehand. But
yeah,
awesome getting to know you, letting the fans know a little bit more, see behind the curtains, and best of luck moving forward with both the Denver season and defending World Junior Gold.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
No problem. Take care, all right? We'll talk to you soon. Have a good holiday.
Yes. Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Thank you again to Denver for making Zeev available here to us. And reminder to everybody, I know we had the Waggle Golf question again. As always, make sure you all get on, go to getyourwaggleon.com, check out the 1980 Miracle Team collaboration that they've got going on. They've got polo, quarter zip, they got a windbreaker even, a couple different hats. Check it out before it is sold out because it is going to happen pretty quick here. Joe, let's wrap up the show the way we always do then. We have the hot take segment, Keyboard Warriors, brought to you by our great friends over at Barrel Theory Beer Company. And again, December is a big month filled with tons of home games. And plus, we got the holiday season coming up, and everyone wants to have the best beers possible if you're hosting this Christmas. And I know anyone that is going to be out at the X, we just sampled lately the Crowler of the Day, Section 105. Everyone needs to give that a try if you're into IPAs. as well as their offerings of raindrops throughout the X, sections 112, 217, and club level 36. Joe, first one I've got this week. I'm really curious what your take is. Your colleague Michael Russo throws out when he reposted something about Jared Spurgeon being able to pass Mikko Koivu for most time on ice skated in franchise history back leading into the Utah game. He said, the one and only player in Minnesota Wild history that'll ever wear 46. What say you?
Wow. Yeah, it's it's not a franchise that's retired a ton of numbers, right? But I think, there are guys there are guys that you can see on this team that will, like Kirill, I think at this pace will be 97, will be retired. It's pretty safe to think that. I think Boldy, if he's on his climb and he plays a 7-year contract with the Minnesota Wild, he could be there. Spurgeon, not out of the question. I know he's not the flashiest guy in the world, but to come where he came from and play this long and this successful and be their captain, especially if they make some hay in the playoffs this year, the next couple of years, while he's Minnesota, like I wouldn't put it past that it happens. It just I know that there are teams that don't have a lot of sweaters retired, right? In Tampa Bay, it's right now it's Vinny Lecavalier and Ryan St. Louis, and deservedly so. And then eventually there'll be 5 more of those when the current core group of guys retires. But yeah, I think Spurgeon deserves the praise he's getting from where he came from to where he is now, and still for his size, a really very, very good defenseman in this league. So it would be interesting to hear the criteria from the brass and what it takes to be retired jersey. You can't just retire everybody, but he certainly would have a case for it.
Yeah, and for me, I know a lot of people love the player. I think there was definitely some dissension and debate among the fan base, though, on Mikko Koivu's jersey ending up in the rafters. And I think with his being there, that kind of set the standard and set the bar, right? Mm-hmm. And you look at him and Spurgeon, and it's hard to find major differences in obviously they're different players, but you look at the longevity, the records they hold, the leadership, what they mean in the longevity. It feels very much like if Koivu got it, as long as Spurgeon plays out his years and does so gracefully, and I don't even think playoff success really matters because I don't know that Koivu ever really had it.
No,
I gotta think that he probably does get it retired, but I would love to hear from, I guess that really is just Leopold's decision probably, right? Who actually gets their numbers up. So I'd be curious to understand what goes into that thought process, but end of the day, who am I to sit here and say whether a player does or doesn't deserve it? It's just weird when you mention guys like Marty St. Louis and Vinny Lecavalier. I see, Lemieux and Briere in Pittsburgh. It's just, it feels different because those franchises have been around longer, right? Mm-hmm. And for the Wild, I think the Koivu one was kind of needed for the fans because it just was so long with only having that depressing number 1 jersey for Wild fans up there, which that one I will speak freely on. I think that's the dumbest gimmick ever. I wish that wasn't there. And I was actually really sad when I learned that Wallstedt was going to be number 30 because all through junior and playing in the World Junior Championship and stuff, he was wearing 1. So I'm like, oh yes, he's going to make them make a decision. Are they going to take that banner down and let him wear it? But then he's like, oh no, I'm 30 for Lundqvist. I'm like, God damn it. All right, there goes our one shot.
Yeah.
Oh, well. I'd never thought about the Spurgeon one much, but as soon as Russo said it, I'm like, huh, yeah, probably.
If you argue one or the other, and that sets the standard of what it'll be, then yeah, you certainly, like I said, has a case. And some franchises different, where it's like Murray, St. Louis, and Vinny Lecavalier, both won Stanley Cup in Tampa, and they had a lot of the records there for the team, and now they've been rewritten by current players. But when you have the Wild that are relatively newer and they don't have that playoff success, you have to base it on the longevity and impact on and off the ice for a team, and has to be a special category of a player. And I think Spurgeon will eventually, I certainly have that case, if they decide to do that.
For sure. Next one up, a little bit of back and forth with prospect writer Cam Robinson and one Colby Cohen. Cam says, hearing Michael Misa and Boston University have a framework in place for him to play there next season. It'll be interesting to see how NCAA teams handle finalizing and announcing commitments with regard to CHL seasons. Colby Cohen quotes that and says, this is false, 100% false, not 1 ounce of truth to it. Of course, BU would like to land Misa, but this tweet has zero merit to it. Just carves him, and goes on his podcast to even expand on it and say he's hearing that Misa has a framework to end up in Minnesota. So the hot take with all of this is, like, is this the new world of college hockey? Like, are all of the top tier CHL guys going to be rumored going everywhere? Are we just going to sit here and bicker back and forth and have no idea what's going on? Like, how is the landscape even going to change with college hockey now that these barriers are open? Like, I wish it was open a little bit earlier so that we could just all dream about Riley Heidt playing for the Gophers. That would be just the best time ever. But what do you make of just all of the chaos here with CHL players being eligible after August 1st?
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. And like it's, I don't like it to this because it's different, of course, but NIL money and football, you see guys that are like top quarterbacks of one team. All of a sudden, Ohio State will pay $4 million and this guy will come over and play. But it does take special a player to make that transition. And Misa, exceptional status guy, like he's exceptional status player. There are very few guys that can make that jump and do that, especially. But yeah, it could become silly season in these instances of guys now being eligible to make the move and be recruited. And I don't know how that's going to necessarily work and bringing them in and whichever, and whether it's right or wrong to have them stay there versus go to college hockey. But yeah, that's anybody who lands him will be in a very, very good place, I think.
Yeah, I think people will be pretty happy to pull that one off. All right, last one here, and this one's got a little bit more to unpack, I guess. Elliot Friedman on the newest version of 32 Thoughts, the podcast, proposed a trade between the Vancouver Canucks and the Buffalo Sabres. He proposes Elias Pettersson going to Buffalo in exchange for Bowen Byram and Dylan Cousins. It's a big one. There's obviously a lot of things to consider with both teams right now and how things are going to whether or not you'd pull the trigger. Which team says no?
I mean, I thought Pettersson was on the way to be a franchise player in Vancouver, right? I know that market is hot for hot takes and the ups and downs of where they can be. So I don't know.
Well, the biggest thing right now, Joe, and I think the reason that some of this came about, at least from the Vancouver side of things, sounds like Pettersson and JT Miller are not boys. Like they are not on the same page. Like Miller's a gamer and he wants to push everybody, and Pettersson is like not having it. So like push comes to shove, you got to choose between those two. Maybe it's a trade that happens, but I asked Isha, producer Isha, our resident BC native, and he said he would absolutely do this. He would love to see Byram and Cousins go to Vancouver for Pettersson, which actually surprised me. I thought he would combat it. So it's interesting. I mean, Buffalo's got their own
problems,
nightmare right now with God, that they were the entire news cycle today with the post about ownership saying they've got the answer in the room here. They believe that this is all going to get sorted out on its own. And the internet's undefeated. Like some of the comments were absurd, but hilarious. And some were pretty accurate.
Yeah. I mean, they are way much more of a problem than the Vancouver Canucks are. But you could argue both teams could use a big jolt in their system, which certainly would be that. But I know the biggest talking points for Kevin Adams talking about how there's not a destination spot in Buffalo and
no palm trees.
Well, no palm trees. Sorry,
and taxes.
When they made the point about Josh Allen, well, didn't they have their own Josh Allen and Jack Eichel? Before, who's now having an incredible season.
Weird, doing great things.
But yeah, if you're Buffalo and you've had this long stretch of lack of playoff even appearances, I guess, but haven't they done this before? They've traded.
How many times have they done this before? So many.
Ryan O'Reilly, it's just, I don't know. I don't think their one trade makes this team where they need to go. But yeah, that's a definitely interesting proposition, especially when you have two teams that are kind of at a little bit of a crossroads here.
For sure. No, Buffalo is the greatest show we have. I need them to have like a season-long HBO series. It would be
great.
Different. Okay, well, again, thank you, Barrel Theory, for bringing us another week of hot takes that we were able to find throughout Twitter and other podcasts. Joe, you're back on the beat now. I don't know if tomorrow's when you're going to figure some of this out or what the plan is. Do you have any stories in the works that are going to be releasing this week or, coming up before the end of the year, we'll say, that you know about?
Yeah, I'm still working on some stuff and with Mike on what things that should be kind of written before end of the year or not. But you look at this team and other guys that have kind of stepped up, and one of our original guests in the show, Declan Chisholm, been playing really well. Might do something on him, especially some big blocks the other day in the assists on Rossi goal, and just overall, he might be a guy that could work, right about. And but I think a lot will dictate on what happens in some big games. Wednesday if they end up turning the corner against them or whatnot, or and then Friday before they hit into the showdown with Winnipeg. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to get back into it. I have some story ideas I want to work on and play out. So as we get through this podcast, feel free to send some things you want to be written about or you're curious about the Minnesota Wild or NHL in general, and happy to hit on that in the Athletic. And obviously we'll, try to find the guests too for the show, like Zeev, who was awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you all again for tuning in yet another week here. Christmas week, we won't have an audio episode dropping, but we will be dropping the video of our sit down with the World Junior Camp invitees, that being Oliver Moore, Brodie Ziemer, and Matthew Wood. So be sure to tune in and check that out. Otherwise, as far as the podcast is concerned, I guess we'll see you all in the new year. That sounds really weird to say, and it also makes me feel really far behind with making sure I've got all my ducks in a row for the holidays. But anyone that hasn't already, subscribe, 5 stars. We love you guys. As always, appreciate you tuning in. You stay classy, stay to hockey.
Thanks so much, everybody.